2 Delta jets, 1 review. Let's see how these 2 iconic aircraft stack up to one another.
What's going on, guys? John and Tony are back out here at the airport, and first time we've been together since the Wings Over Springs event a couple weeks back when I crashed the F-22 and the F-18. Today we're going to go ahead and return to the old format for just a little bit because it's going to be a pain in the butt to try to voice over the differences between these jets instead of just doing it in real time. So I'm going to walk you guys through the Gripen and the French Rafale. These are 2 really capable jets, but in many ways I suspect the Rafale is going to be the winner. First and foremost, let's go over the differences between them. You're going to notice that we do not have the full functionality of the Gripen here with the Freewing model. It's missing the inner flap that should be there, so that already limits the maneuverability. However, compared to this one, the canards can be modified to travel absurdly to the point where they fly just like the full scale does. So there is a point in favor here. These barely move at all. You'll see when I power it up. So the Rafale does have a full flying wing, unlike the Gripen. It is exceptionally maneuverable. We're going to be flying both of these jets on the SMC 5500 high cycle life batteries that Danny at SMC sent to us. You can actually hear my transmitter over there complaining that what is it? It's at 20, listen.
Flight pack 26.24 volts.
Yeah, so we're going to hear that for a minute until I turn her down. These batteries are high voltage. They charge up to 26.2 volts instead of 25.2. So we're going to get a full volt difference on these, which we've already tested it with the Viper. By that point, you've seen this. They are exceptional batteries. Danny's assured me that they have as good of a quality, or sorry, not quality, good of a cycle life as the SMC 5000 packs do, which means they should go for at least 150 to 200 cycles, comparable to a normal lithium polymer pack. So with that out of the way, and because we're going to be testing these both in the same setup, here's the canards. Look at the canard on the Gripen here. That's as far as they can physically travel unless you do significant mods to the Rafale. However, it's of dubious use on the Gripen. They don't do much except function as air brakes in this form, and they look really cool too. There's a point in favor for it there. But otherwise, this jet has bigger travels. It has much more authority. In fact, it almost has better landing gear, but the nose gear is susceptible to catching. And sometimes you have to use full right rudder to get them to deploy correctly. So the major differences between these 2 jets too, I'm gonna go ahead and pick these up and I'll tell you which one's heavier. That's gonna influence how they both perform. These have the exact same battery in them. This thing weighs almost nothing. The Gripen, however, let's go ahead and show you this is the same battery, SMC 5500 high cycle life battery in there. This is heavier. It's about, I'd say 1.2 to 1.4 times heavier than the Rafale. So it's gonna fly a little heavier and it's not gonna fly as agile unless you put thrust vectoring in it. So to show you that and how well this thing performs, let's go ahead and take up the Rafale. This thing is a beast. I can't wait to see how well it performs. But before we fly it, let's double check the center of gravity. That's something we should always do before we fly, especially with a new battery. Currently we are balancing slightly nose down right here where my middle fingers are. That's about a little bit further back than where I have it on the Gripen. So it's going to be an interesting flight. It should actually be very agile. These deltas, you don't want to get the CG too far back. They start getting absurd. Also, because we have the inner flaps on this too, and I tore out the, or not tore out, but I rerouted all the wiring. I've got custom, crow on this, just like the FMS box had, but mine is timed through the spektrum radio. So we're going to go ahead and take off on these high cycle batteries. Oh my gosh, yeah. Listen to that thing scream. That's absurd. Thank you, Danny. Put some more trim in here. I think I've almost got her trimmed.
Flight pack 20. Bounds 18 right.
We're going to see just how good this thing flies compared to the Gripen here in a second. Let's get her turned up so we can hear her.
24.19 volts.
Wow, did you see that? It almost did a full Cobra, and I was barely pulling the elevator. Holy crap, dude. The CG is maybe a little too extreme.
1 minute.
Wow. Let's get a high-speed pass right in front of our faces. Please take a step back. I don't know where this thing's going to go, and I don't want it to go into my best friend / brother-in-law. Stepping back with you.
.46 volts.
It's absurd how good this thing is. It's so agile. I mean, it just does almost anything you want it to do. Because the CG is where it's at right now, I bet we can get a really sweet Cobra maneuver out of it. So we're gonna go nice and high in case this backfires on us somehow. I'm gonna get high enough where those clouds can be visible against it. 3, 2, 1. Oh, that was anticlimactic, wasn't it?
23.53 volts.
23.53 volts, and we are at how many minutes here of flight? Almost 2 minutes of flight. That's absurdly good. And this is a lot of high speed maneuvering we're doing too. We're gonna do another one. 3, 2, 1. Oh yeah. Not a full Cobra where it snaps all the way back, but still really good. Now this thing's a high alpha monster too, but as you guys have already seen when we shot this with Will, it does exceptional inverted high alpha. Let it bleed off some airspeed. Look at how dialed in that is. I could have gotten it even lower, but some of the wind picked up, and at this airport I don't mess with wind. It's often very turbulent and I don't want this thing to crash. We've only flown it maybe 7 or 8 times. Let's go up and do the sideways test. Look at that. Look how agile that is. It flipped over itself within the length of the fuselage. It's absurd.
3 minutes.
Oh my God, I love this. I mean, this is amazing. Now let's see if the landing gear comes out. That's one issue this plane has that the Gripen does not have.
Gear down.
Hey, look at that, it came out. Good. If I can get it to reliably come out every single time, I'll be in hog heaven here. All right, we're gonna test out the Crow. I only flew it once like that, but we're gonna test it out. Do a quick pass with it. We still have a decent amount of battery life left.
Crow 50.
Crow's in. Oh, dude, look at how stable that is with the Crow out.
Crow up.
That FMS 2100 Platinum motor sounds absurdly good in here.
4 minutes.
God, I love this jet, man. I didn't think anything could beat the Gripen in the Delta category, but this thing is something else. We're actually gonna make an approach here, see if we can bring her in. Hope you guys like the return to the old format just for a little bit. There we go. Gotta work on my landings with that. It's not normally something I would do to land with like Crow on a Delta. It's very new to me, but with a little bit more throttle and a bit more angle of attack, for those of you who don't know what that is, it just means holding the nose up more. I think we would have a pretty good flying experience for landing. Definitely don't use it for takeoff. I've heard some people in the comment section mention that they tried taking off with Crow. This is not a takeoff configuration, guys. This is maximum drag. Okay, you don't want this. This does not help with lift. It does not help with anything but slowing the model down. All right, if you take off like this and you wreck, I hate to say it, but it's your own fault. Don't do that. Bad, terrible, don't do this.
Crow 25.
If the canards could move enough to where you could get them to pitch up about as much as the Gripens do. You could actually get the elevons to point down and get the canards to bring the nose up, and then you could use that as a flap mechanism. But this crow slash butterfly config, that is not for takeoff. Don't do it. We have the JAS-39 Gripen, and we're going to take this up with the batteries. You will hear her complaining about 26.1 volts in a second.
Flight pack 25.99 volts.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of power packed into these SMC lithium high voltage packs. We just flew the crap out of the Rafale. We got 4 minutes and 30 seconds of amazing flight demonstrations out of that thing. Now we're going to take this up, and because the canards are actually much better designed than the Rafale, I can actually do the proper takeoff mode. The full-scale jet, if you ever watch it take off, as it goes to pull the stick back, the flight computer starts to pull the canards up, and then the jet lifts up gracefully. We're going to do that with this one. Here we go. For some reason the afterburner doesn't want to work. Now, so far I can feel a massive difference. The Gripen is not anywhere near as agile. Like, it's not flipping over itself like the Rafale was. But with these SMC 5500 packs, they're very lightweight, and it's letting it fly to pretty much its full potential without thrust vectoring. So absolutely, this is still a great jet, but so far I'm going to tell you right now, the Rafale flies better. It just does. But this motor's got some kick to it, so let's go ahead and be fair and do a full speed pass with the Gripen right above the grass. Holy crap, that's faster than I thought it was. I almost plowed it into the ground. How's the focus, man? You keeping up with this thing? Yep. Okay, cool. It's been a while since we had you back on cam. Holy crap, this thing's fast. I will tell you right now, this is actually a much faster jet with these SMC high voltage packs, because it was sustaining voltage much more than it would with a regular LiPo. Even the high quality SMC packs that we fly normally, those don't stand up to this. Getting a little bit of turbulence out here and some waggling from the gyro. This thing does some pretty good barrel slash load it rolls too. And don't get me wrong, I love this jet. It's still one of my favorite jets to fly, but I just don't think it holds a candle like the Rafale feels like a 3D jet without thrust vectoring. If it had thrust vectoring, that thing would be flipping over itself insanely. It would be so agile. And a lot of that has to do with how well it's designed. It's so lightweight. Check the voltage.
22.34 volts.
22.34 volts. And that's been half throttle most of this time. This thing's holding up very well. Now, I'm just gonna tell you, man, I love this thing, but it just doesn't hold a candle to how agile the Rafale is. Let's go ahead and try to put it into inverted high alpha. I think it's gonna be kind of sad in comparison to the Rafale. Yeah, it's not really high alpha. Like, it's got a little bit of a nose up pitch to it, but it's not as good as the Rafale. And it's not as stable either. I mean, the Rafale, it's stable no matter what you do. Nose up, nose down, it doesn't really matter. Give it a little bit of rudder to kick it around there.
There's 22.36 volts.
Yeah, I love putting some extra G's into that wing, loading it up and then throwing some rudder into it and just making that buoy slide around. It's pretty sweet. Okay, now it's getting on time to bring her down. Ooh, there's a buzzard up there. We could chase that buzzard away. Nah, we're not gonna mess with the wildlife. I'm gonna go ahead and brake, bring her in.
Down.
And to be fair, we're gonna land from the same direction because that's where the wind is coming from, no matter how light it is. Step back so I'm out of Tony's way. Still getting over the Rona a little bit, so you might hear me cough on occasion. Sorry about that.
22.5
One thing the Gripen has over the Rafale is that the landing light is so bright because of the Freewing LED controller. And I can throw the air brakes out too. You can't do that with the Rafale, at least not with the way the canards are designed, which is rather unfortunate.
Cruise mode.
So now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna take both of these jets back up and we're gonna put the Rafale, don't you do it. Don't make me go get you.
21.84.
I gotta go get it. Okay, but in the meantime, we're gonna go put a couple of SMC 5000 packs into both of these jets and then see how they perform and then stack them up, and I'll give you guys my final thoughts on it. I'm gonna give you guys a full word of warning that comes from the bottom of my heart. Don't be an idiot like me and charge a lithium polymer battery to 4.35 volts. Danny's batteries are exceptionally well built because I'm surprised they didn't catch fire when that happened. This in here right now is a 4.35 volt lithium polymer, one of the SMC packs, and I discharged it back to 4.2. We're currently at 25.3 volts. I think everything will be fine. At the first sign of anything being weird and wonky, like maybe the throttle getting stuck, we're gonna bring it down. But here we go. Everything looks good so far. So this is, again, the SMC 4500 pack. Look at how agile that thing is, dude. It just does not care.
20 seconds.
These big Delta Wing jets are
30 seconds.
amazing to fly. See how that just flips over itself? You cannot get the Gripen to fly like that the way that Freewing designed it, and it's rather unfortunate because it should be as good as the Rafale, if not better. And I say that as a American with Swedish roots. It makes me sad to say that the Frenchies have a better jet from FMS. But this thing is just insanely good. Let me check the voltage while I'm sitting here blathering. 22.86, there was no damage to the battery, thankfully. It could have easily gone south. Oh, that's a crazy amount of spin. That was only a slight stick movement too. A little bit of stick movement goes a long way with this jet, guys. You don't really have to do a whole lot with it. We're gonna go ahead and get her lined up for a regular high alpha approach. This is so easy, it's almost cheating. As Tony said, what did you call it?
Cheat mode?
Yeah, cheat mode jet. It feels like I'm playing Half-Life 2 with what do you call it? No clip turned on. Look how dumb this is. I'm barely holding the elevator stick here. It's so dumb. And you can sit here and you can watch this. Give a little bit of rudder to the right, and we're gonna go ahead and turn it around and give it a little bit of counter aileron. We're gonna keep the throttle up because there's some wind coming from the front. We don't wanna stall out. There we go. Look at that, coming right back in, letting her sink. That is high alpha. What do you think, sir?
21.66 volts.
A lot of alpha. Get all that angle of attack out. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and do it invert it now. There we go. Trying to remember my rudder directions. There we go. Kind of fat fingered that one a little bit. It wasn't as stable as it could have been.
21.5 volts.
So we're gonna take it back and do it one more time. The SMC 4500 is what this plane flies best with. Got another cough coming. I'm still got a bunch of mucus from the coronavirus recovery, unfortunately. I'm gonna go a little further out this time. Rudder the jet around. Here we go. Throttle back. There we go. Remember, when it's coming at you, right rudder goes to the right, left rudder goes to the left. And we're just gonna go ahead and get out of it. I'm not feeling it. That's okay. It's windy enough right now that I just don't want to chance it. See if the gear came out. You see a nose gear? I see a nose gear.
You got all three.
All right, cool. Let's bring her in. So far, so good. It was rather unfortunate the second flight, the nose gear messed up. I just, you know, you guys know me for doing crazy extreme stuff, but if you don't feel it, don't do it. And I wasn't feeling it toward the end there.
22.2.
And now we're in crow. Step back so I'm not in the way of Tony's filming. There's some definite differences in how it flies. I'm gonna turn it down, maybe land with crow 50 instead, or just keep the nose up. You don't really even need it. Why even make it harder, right? It's good to drop it after you land because it acts as a natural air brake, but it doesn't do much for you in the air besides make it a little bit difficult to fly.
21.84 volts.
And these deltas are so forgiving when it comes to holding the nose up. See what I mean? I do have a nose wheel issue. It wants to point to the right nonstop. I have to give it give it a significant amount of left rudder to fix that. So we're gonna go ahead and just fix that now while we're on going off camera, and then it will hopefully not do that anymore. I'm so sick of coughing. I've been doing it for a full month at this point, but at least it's kind of subsided. Now we have the Freewing Gripen, and we have an SMC 4060C, I think this is. Pretty sure it's 60. Something like that. Either way, it's good. It's our battery of choice for this particular jet. The 55s are really good too. The lithium high voltage ones that Danny sent us a test from SMC. Those things, I think they really performed absurdly well. But unfortunately, this jet does not seem to hold a candle to the Rafale. It's just not as maneuverable. Now, I've had this jet for over a year at this point. Year and a half. Same jet. It's all beat up to hell.
Turbine disc cycle gear.
We'll say that it's done pretty good for the time that we've owned it. When it eventually wrecks or decides to, the airframe just has too much fatigue, we're gonna go ahead and upgrade it to a thrust vectored variant, and then we're really gonna have some fun. All right, and we have a, got the afterburner fixed too, so let's get her up. That is how the takeoff should have looked to begin with, nice and gentle. I gotta push the canards down.
Canard 6.
There we go. That should get it trimmed. These 4,000 packs are a little on the lightweight side and not gonna last as long.
6.
I think it's trimmed. It's a little down.
Canard 30 seconds.
Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and bring this one into high alpha. This jet is not as good at high alpha as the Rafale is, unfortunately. It's got more wing loading and it doesn't have the same level of maneuverability. And also I think it's coming in way too fast. There we go. So we're gonna keep it in alpha and we're gonna steer it with rudder. We're gonna do a little higher because this plane does tend to laterally depart, as in it will yaw and slip if you give it too much angle of attack, and it will slip right out of control. There we go.
1 minute.
Keeping it turned toward us. So it's a good alpha plane, but it's not as extreme as the Rafale, and it's not as easy to recover from either. And honestly, inverted high alpha in this thing isn't really even a thing. It's kind of weird. Not really worth covering. So really, what it comes down to between the two choices for these jets is, what do you want out of your airframe? Do you want something that's really fast? Well, that's where this jet's gonna win. It's got more speed. But if you're just chasing numbers, I personally am not really a big fan of that unless it's purpose-built for it, like the V1200. I prefer aerobatics over speed. I mean, you can make just about anything go fast if you put enough motor into it, but you can't make everything fly really well unless you set it up just right. And I think there's more skill involved in that. And that's just my own personal thoughts in the matter. But when it comes to speed, this is gonna be the faster of the two jets. It's got a better duct design. It's got a better profile. And the nozzles are already set up for proper fan swept area, FSA. So this thing already is quick. I think I hit 130 one time with it with crappy batteries, so no doubt we could probably hit close to 150 with this jet with the SMC 55 high voltage pack. So if you really want just something that just barrels by as fast as it can possibly go, in the jet world, there's not going to be too much that's much faster than this from Freewing or from E-flite or FMS. And being a nice delta wing, it does have that stability where you can kind of pull it into some aggressive maneuvers and you don't really get bit by it. You can load the wing up real good and it's not going to stall out on you as easily as you would get like from the Viper jet 90 millimeter or even an F-16, even though that's a delta, it's still got issues there too. But with the CG where it's at right now, it flies pretty good like a fighter jet should. It's very agile. As you can see.
22.38 volts.
But these SMC 4000s don't last terribly long because they're high performance batteries and, you know, it's a 4000 pack. It's not meant to fly forever. And these ducted fan jets really eat them up. So, again, if what you're looking for in a jet, if you want something fast, get the Gripen. If you want something that's relatively fast and has the ability to do insane maneuvering, get the Rafale. Or if you just like the way this jet looks versus the other one, go ahead and get that. You know, it really just comes down to personal preference. I like Swedish design. It's one of the reasons why I shop at IKEA, even if it is kind of the Walmart of Sweden. I do very much appreciate the aesthetic that Saab has in their design ethos. If I could get my hands on a J-35 Draken, I absolutely would. Fun fact, my middle name is Drake as well, which is Swedish for dragon. Or depending on who you ask, it's potentially Swedish for kite. I prefer dragon, if I had to say what it means.
Gear down.
So, the showdown between these two jets, we're gonna go through the absolute final thoughts here as we get the jet down. I'm so sick of coughing. All right, bring her in. Nice aggressive pull. Bleed off some of that airspeed as we maneuver around.
21.91 volts.
There we go, get lined up with the runway. It's a little bit more dicey on that side because of the trees. But this airport really separates the pilots from those who can't land.
5 minutes, air brake mode.
Air brakes out and we're good to go. I mean, this is 17 feet wide and this isn't really boasting about how good we are or how bad we are. It's just a fact. If you can't land on 17 feet of taxiway, you're gonna have troubles flying here. So this place, I really had to get good quick to fly here. I actually spent quite a few batteries one day just training myself to land on the same spot over and over to where it doesn't even bother me anymore. Like I can land anywhere now. If you guys can find a patch of runway like this where you are, it's probably one of the best things you can do as a pilot is to put yourself through that anxiety of having to deal with the, you know, just how am I going to get this down safe? How am I going to get it down in this small patch? I mean, watch this. Watch how much like how little it takes to walk. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 paces wide is this whole runway here. And the jet, like 3 of these long is how wide it is. So you have to actually be able to land within a third of the length of this thing. Well, I got that wrong. Whatever. I'm not good with math. Nobody said I'm good at that. So let's go ahead and grab the Rafale. And then we'll go ahead and, you guys already know, this is the jet that I absolutely adore right now. I can't believe how good this thing is. We tend to gravitate towards jets and models, generally speaking, at this channel, that are the most aerobatic models that you can get. That's generally, I think, our philosophy. What do you think, Tony? You with me on that?
Yeah.
So, like, speed is cool. You know, if you're into speed, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, we used to fly the V1200 here. We tore that thing up. I mean, dead ass would just fly straight down this thing, 150 plus miles an hour, but that's all you can do with it. You can just go fast. You can do a couple spins here and there, some barrel rolls and some other cool stuff, but ultimately it comes down to what can you get out of the model? Can you just go fast or can you do more than just go fast? With the Rafale, you can do more than just go fast. With the Gripen, you can do that the same way, but you're gonna get more out of the Rafale, and I think it's gonna be a better jet, even for people who are still learning how to fly, because it's more forgiving. It's less likely to stall out on you. If you even compare, like if you look at them from above, there's more wing area on the Rafale, and it weighs less than the Gripen does. It's nowhere near as heavy. Well, maybe not nowhere near, but like this, like no joke, like unload it, this thing weighs like maybe 4 pounds, and I think this one weighs 5 unloaded. So it's a pretty significant difference in weight. And part of that comes from the robustness of the gear on the jet here, because look at how thick those landing gear are. If you took those gear out of this thing and turned it into a dedicated belly lander, you could probably get this thing to flip around like crazy. But those of you who fly off grass fields probably don't want to tear up the bottom of your plane flying it off grass nonstop. And we did actually run into gear issues with this jet too. On the second flight of the maiden, this little pin right here coming out of the, here, let's zoom in on this. The little pin coming out that connects the steering to this push rod right here has to fold out in a really weird way. And if you have left rudder at all, what ends up happening is that pin doesn't extend and it actually binds on this and prevents it. It comes out this much and it gets stuck. And then if you didn't check for that, like I didn't, you end up in a situation where the jet busts up the nose gear, something fierce, or sorry, the nose cone. So we got this. I have a couple of them on order from AliExpress. They should be here, who knows when China sends them. But in the meantime, I hope this helps you guys out. If you can see exactly what these two jets are capable of. Clearly you can tell it hurts it hurts me to say it, but this is the better jet for what we want to do. If you're more into speed and aerobatics, the Gripen it's not a bad jet. Like if I had to rate these two, like right now, give you the old John score, this is still, in terms of flight characteristics, a 10 out of 10. I'm gonna upgrade my scoring on the ground handling, which was 5 out of 10 before. I mean, we don't mind telling you guys what we really think about this stuff. I'm gonna say this is closer to a 7 now that we've kind of ironed out some of the kinks. It could be a little less squirrely on the ground. This thing, ground handling, is just as good as the way it flies. This is a solid 8.5 to 9 out of 10 in terms of flight characteristics, but nothing beats this thing for how it flies. It is, you cannot, you just have no idea until you've flown it the way we have this thing set up. You just have no idea how good it can really be to fly an EDF jet. Like the Viper 90 behind Tony is pretty good too, but it ain't this. This is just something else. So we're gonna let you guys go and we'll see you all again next time. Have a good one.